Okay, we are back again, and this is video number 2 on the Meridian system. Again, I want to point out the Meridian system is in the etheric body, not the physical body as the Chinese Meridian system makes manifest. Okay, now, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of questions again after this one. And as a rule, I don't answer too many comments. But for this series of videos, I do believe I'll take some extra time. And I will answer questions in the comments for people who have them. And we'll take it from there. Okay, here we go. Let me kind of read what I have written down here for a second. Okay, symptoms, wrap my head around that one again. The symptoms that one might feel when this system is beginning to reopen again. Okay, now, just to keep my stuff at hand here, most of the information in this regard to the symptoms of these meridians opening come from my own personal experience of my own opening, and also the experiences of other people that I have worked with or counseled, and they have told me about the symptoms, or I have read them or heard them on YouTube from people or in Facebook groups, and they've mentioned some kind of symptoms that they are feeling. And it must be remembered that whenever there has been any kind of energetic or change within the other bodies, correspondingly there's going to be physical manifestations or symptoms that take place within the physical body, because the physical body is always last to adapt or to make the change at any particular point in time. Someone's going to ask me, well, when people were explaining to me what was going on and I knew what was going on, why didn't I tell them? Which is a perfectly justifiable question. Is because I was told, again to repeat, not to mention anything about this meridian system until the collective consciousness, that's more than one person, was in a situation or at a state of awareness that the information should be made public. And at the moment that it makes public, then there will be a major release within the collective consciousness, as it were, and a lot of people will release instantly as they listen to this video a lot of the discomforts and or conditions that needed to be shed at the appropriate time. Now that may seem somewhat of a strange answer, but there will be some of you who will understand what I just said. Okay. Physical symptoms of the meridian system opening, and I'm going to start again at the bottom of the feet. And in a lot of cases, what has happened is these meridians on the bottom of the feet have been, and this comes again from experience of doing many years of energy work on people, call it healing work if you want, for the sake of familiarity. And I would be able to scan them with my hand and be able to feel whether the meridians on the bottom of the feet were open or were they not. And when talking to people, I have found out that when they usually have a lot of discomfort in the feet, it's usually in the area of the arch of the foot. And when they have this discomfort, it can feel like a very sharp stabbing pain, a burning pain, and a lot of, how do I put this into words? They could feel a lot of, almost like they could feel the bones cracking or something moving in their foot, or they could get like stabbing, piercing pains in the bottom of their feet, or they could experience what I call hot feet. And I guess for the ladies, since a lot of ladies, I'm told through time have mentioned that a lot of ladies have the cold feet thing going on. For a period of time, they end up having hot feet, and they may go back and forth between one foot and the other. And that's kind of the symptoms in the area. Okay, the smaller the meridian, the less the physical symptom is going to be at any given point in time. So if we go up now and we go to the area of the knees, okay, and these, as I said, this two in the knees are part of that minor meridian system. When these two are opening, I know for myself when I felt mine open, what it felt to me was some kind of an electrical current. And it didn't happen, to both of them at the same time. Oh, yes, and I need to mention that also. It doesn't necessarily mean that, for example, the two on the feet could actually start showing symptoms together, okay? You could have one open, say, one time, and you could feel the physical symptom of it. It could be a week, it could be 6 months, it could be a year later when you feel the same symptom in the other side. Keep that in mind. There are two sides to the body, the left, the right, the yin, the yang, and depending upon where you are in the balancing of your now pay attention to this part. It depends upon where you are in the balancing of your masculine and feminine essence, side, or self through the emotional body, as it were, that will kind of dictate which side opens, first of all, to put into counterbalance the opposite side. You follow what I'm saying? So they don't necessarily come in order here. They'll come in the actual way that you, the individual, are awakening. So therefore, there are going to be a whole lot of variations here as to how the symptoms are manifest and how the opening is going to take place for different people based on structure, based on, their belief systems, personality development, and even right down to the DNA within themselves, how these physical symptoms are going to manifest, and they're going to be different, and they're going to be varied for a lot of people. So it's not a one-size-fits-all here. Just because I'm giving you the symptoms doesn't mean that all of them are going to open up on both sides simultaneously. That's not going to happen. It isn't. All right. It's kind of adapting to you, the individual. So keep that in mind. Very important point here. Please remember that. Okay. So, all right. The two in the kneecap will open accordingly, as I said, and that electrical current, or you can actually feel almost like a swelling, okay, or suddenly the knee will swell and become very uncomfortable and almost feel like you have arthritis. Again, in one or the other, and it can be different for a part. And even when you have the symptom in one, and it may be sometime later before you get the symptom in the other, the intensity of here's another important point, remember this one, the intensity of the symptom, may not be identically to what it was on one side as it is on the other. So you can have a difficult time and very intense symptoms, physical symptoms on one side, and relatively easy on the other. That's an important point. Please remember that. It's not a one size, one thing fits all here. It's kind of based on your individuality and based on your consciousness. Yes, I understand that there are quite a few thousands of people who are, relatively speaking, at the same, if I can use the word, level of consciousness, which dictates level of symptoms. But even if you're all at the same level of consciousness, you're still an individual and unique in yourself. So it opens according to the map of you. And the map of you could be a John, a Henry, a Gail, a Jane, a whomever, whatever, as to how it unfolds. Please remember that point, okay? Don't get into this habit of what someone gives, be it me or anyone else for that matter, as being linear. It's flexible in how it manifests. So I'm giving you the general concept here of what's going on, and I'm being a lot more detailed here. And I think even my practitioners are going to kind of want to come back and listen, and I'm fine-tuning this, even the information that I've given them. Don't take it personal, guys. I'm just doing what I've been guided to do in this particular situation, and a lot of this information they can add to their repertoire also besides that in helping additional people, because sometimes I get it even more in the presentation. I'll give you an example, everyone, so that you fully understand what I mean by that. It's not that I'm being selfish or this. Every time that I've trained a practitioner for Meridian energetics, what has happened is, as I get into the chakra system and I get into the Meridian system, I find that each practitioner got a little bit more than the one preceding. And I never know why. It's because evolution continues on in spite of even my belief systems or how I feel about it. And when I'm giving information from source, if I can use that term humbly, when it's being given to me, I give it to another person, and I give it to, according to them, what they need to hear, which may not be what another person has needed to hear. And the other thing is this, is they've given me very high caliber people to work with, and each one gets different information that's pertinent to exactly them. And I'm understanding that also. So this may be beneficial to some of my practitioners also. Okay, so please remember what I said about the symptoms specifically, and I'm going to repeat this as we go along. Okay, now, what I want to do here is I want to move through the minor symptoms here first, okay, of the minor meridians, and that's the 2 in the knees, 2 in the chest, 2 in the elbows, and the 2 on the shoulders. I want to move through that minor system first, okay, and give you the symptoms basically of what you feel. It would apply to all of these minor ones, 2 in the knees, 2 in the chest, 2 on the shoulders, and where the hell are the other 2? Oh yeah, 2 on the elbows that I forgot about, because sometimes I get my head gets going ahead of my mouth here and start seeing and hearing all at the same time. So as we go from the 2 from the knees, and we go up to the 2 on the chest, again here, the 2 on the chest are in the upper part of the body, as opposed to the knees that are in the lower part of the body. Again, those 2 meridians would function, and pay attention to this part. Pay attention to the whole damn thing. It's all good stuff. I keep saying that, but you should be all ears for what I'm saying here, because it's important stuff. The 2 on the chest, the 2 meridians on the chest, coincide exactly with heart center development. So there are many people who have heart center chakra awakening that initially, as they get into this uncontrolled phase of the heart center development, what happens is these meridians have to start opening. And again, they will open. And what may happen is people have told me, that they're feeling, a lot of people talk about it in the area of the nipple, okay? And I've had some people tell me that they've had sore nipples, all right? And it's not actually a sore nipple, it's actually an area above the nipple area that is beginning to open up, and it can turn red, and it can almost swell like it looks like almost like a boil. It can produce an itchy sensation. It can look like a rash, and it can go from one side of the chest to the other. And if you happen to be a lady, it could be a little bit on the embarrassing side if you start breaking out on these symptoms and you want to go to the beach or something like that, whatever. It could get a little hairy kind of a situation for you, and I do understand that. Guys, however, could go through the same thing. They just don't have the same problem that the ladies might have in regards to this particular situation. So again, pay attention to the symptoms as it's unfolding. Every time there's going to be the physical thing. Okay, now moving up to the 2 on the shoulder. These 2, I must mention here also, really for the average person just going through the evolutionary process who has no interest in doing healing abilities, you have to understand that everyone who does healing work on another person is going to go through a little bit different symptoms sometimes than a person who is not going to do energy work. But those 2 on the shoulders will not necessarily be functioning the same in someone who's doing energy work or doing healing work. I will explain that later, but they're activated on everyone, but for the purpose that the person is empowering themselves and toward what goal they're achieving in their co-creativity, their livelihood, and whatever. So those two meridians will function very differently. What they manifest as symptoms can be dictated by that I've just mentioned. And what it means is you can have extremely sore shoulders, okay, extending from the armpits right up over top to the shoulder, where you've got a really, really sore shoulder for a extended period of time. And again, it will manifest from one side to the other. You may have difficulty sleeping. If you're one of those people who lay on your side, I know I had this problem for a while. If you lay on one side, you're going to find it difficult to sleep on your favorite side if that meridian on the shoulder is beginning to open, and as the same thing on the other side. So they can open up in two different timelines, again, based on that balance of yin-yang within you overall. So don't expect equality here. It's not going to happen, all right? Now, the other two are on the elbows, and again, the symptoms there are pretty much the same as what they are in the shoulder area, but in the elbows, it can actually feel like you've got arthritis. It actually can. It can actually feel like your elbow is swelling, okay, and it actually can get red and it can swell up, and it can actually feel like you have arthritis or some other kind of condition. And I know it's very probable, that some of you have probably gone to a physician and had yourself medically checked, and they probably couldn't find anything wrong with you. And then you figure, oh, well, if they can't find anything wrong with me, what's wrong with me? Actually, nothing. What's wrong with you is just a figure of speech, because you're changing and evolving, and these meridians are beginning to open up and they're causing physical reactions. Now, I want to make mention of one thing here just before I continue on, so I'm going to leave it there for now. A lot of people in this spiritual community have this idea that they get that we're experiencing from time to time. A lot of it is based on astrology and the planets lining up and all of that kind of stuff, which, okay, I get it. But what I'm talking about here is a lot of people who don't have and don't do astrology, they say, well, we're experiencing some new energies, okay? I want to explain this so everybody gets it straight in their head, and I'm probably going to do it in each one of the video. There is no new energy, none whatsoever. What you're experiencing when the 12 chakra system opens is, one, states of consciousness which emanate energy to you, which will seem new. When the meridian system begins to open, you have access to energies flowing through those meridians that you haven't had for over 2,000 years. So they're going to feel like new energy. There's no new energy. All of the energy that's ever been there has always been there in our universe. Okay? All you're getting now is the equipment to become aware of it, the sensitivity to feel it, and the awareness to use it, hopefully, properly. That's my job, to explain that you're getting access to it, and hopefully to share with you what's happening and to get you to a point where you can use it. At least that's what I'm told I'm supposed to be doing. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. What do you think? I think so anyways. Nothing like patting yourself on the back. And I like patting myself on the back because I think I am doing a great job. So I really don't care what anybody else thinks. Okay. So, okay. All right. Now, those particular minor meridians, like I said, are the minor ones, and they have physical symptoms. Now I want to talk about I'll get to the ones on the head there in a minute, okay? But I want to do the major ones here now. The major meridians are the ones that I talked about in the first video as to the location of where they are. 2 on the hips, 2 on the sides of the ribs, and they were similar and both the same size. These puppies can be a real pain in the tush when they open. Why? Because they're large. And 2, because 1 has to do with the upper diaphragm, and the other 2 on the hips have to do with the lower part of the body lower and the body higher, okay? Because of the size of them, the symptoms can be a real pain in the tush, as I said. I have had people come to me in their late teens and early 20s, and they ask me, Mel, my hips are driving me nuts. They're so sore, and I'm working out all the time, and there's no reason to have this. I'm in great health, and I feel like I'm falling apart because my hips are sore. I can't even lay on my side at night, and it's spontaneous. It goes back and forth between one and the other. Here's another point that I want to mention, is the symptoms that you feel can begin with 1, and these ones on the hip area here can get very intense, and then that one can kind of feel like it's okay, and then the other one starts, and you're going through the same symptoms all over again, and the physical discomfort is quite pronounced in a lot of cases, and then suddenly that one stops and you go back to the other one, and hallelujah, we're off and running again. And this can go on 3 or 4 times, especially with these major meridians, because they are major. There's a lot of stuff going on here, of which I'll get into later. So the symptoms can be quite profound. The hips can be very sore. It does not matter what age you are at all. And any kind of culture or racial thing has nothing to do with it. It's all about you as an individual, and these major meridians can be a real pain, as I said. And I've heard from some people who this has gone on, this ping pong sensation of alternating physical discomfort at the hip area going on for months, and in one particular case that I heard about, almost 2 years in varying degrees. Now again, the reason that this happens in the physical is, again, as I mentioned before, depending upon location, depending upon diet, depending upon your DNA, the soul group, the culture. Okay, everybody can say, well, we're all one. Yes, we're all one, but not everybody's the same. We have different skin colors, we have different backgrounds, we have different food intake. All of these conditions have to be taken into consideration. So what happens to one will not necessarily what happens to another, and it's dependent on many circumstances, okay? So these 2 can cause a lot of discomfort, and people can even have difficulty walking when they have these open. And you can actually feel as though if you take your fingers, some of you will probably remember this, and touch your hips on the side, they're tender to touch. They are. Whoop-de-doo. And like I said, it can go on for an extended period of time. The same thing applies to the 2 on the sides of the rib. I've even had people report to me that they feel terrible discomfort, and it actually feels like the bones in their rib cage are all turning mushy and soft, and they're very tender as these meridians are beginning to open. And people are going to say, well, why the hell didn't you give me this information before? I already explained that. I give it at the right time when it's necessary and when it serves the greater purpose, not the individual, but the many. I've heard that expression somewhere before. I think it's on Star Trek or something, which does seem to apply here. In this particular situation, this is why I'm presenting at this particular point in time. These things were only supposed to run about 15 minutes. I'm already at 24 here, so wow, okay, I want to get through this. All right, so again, these meridians, these major meridians, one set has to do with the lower part of the physical body, the symptoms. Oh, another thing, the lower meridians can and do cause some difficulty in regards to digestive issues, assimilation, bowel problems, and also one can experience a great degree of sexual energy manifesting within them at that particular point. And it is that particular scenario that I will get into in much depth in the next video. The two on the sides of the chest, like I said, can cause a great deal of physical discomfort and pain, but it has to do with the upper part of the body, heart-lung system kind of deal. I'll get into that a little bit later, just so you know, give you a little taste of it now, because I want to move on. And these accordingly will happen when the person is ready for it. Now, usually as a general rule, what I have found is most people will awaken the minor meridians first. The major meridians seem to come along later when the person has evolved a bit more, and the minor meridians that I'm talking about, I'm getting into that no, I'm going to leave it till the next video, because I'm getting ahead of myself here. I made myself promise I wouldn't do that. Okay, so I want to get into now the situation of the two on the neck, and here, what happens here is this is, again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist here for the two on the neck for people to figure out what they might be in direct conjunction with. And I can say that there's difficulty in swallowing when these two meridians begin to open. There can be some sore neck. Also, there can be some problems in regards to the sinus area, the nose area, that type of thing, even down to a little bit of swallowing, if I haven't mentioned that already. Those are not too intense, but they can be prolonged. Now, the two behind the ears, as they're opening, the symptoms can actually manifest as, if I recall, and I remember my own, and I remember some of the other people that just talked with me, it can have to do with what people call, I think it's called tinnitus, they call it, I believe, noise or frequencies in the ear. And this can go on for a period of time within that person, going from one ear back and forth to the other, and then suddenly it will disappear. And if you already have tinnitus before this opens and they open, then you're going to have more of it for an extended period of time also as this begins to manifest. All right. Now, I want to, the two in the eyes, I'm leaving those for now, simply because the only symptom that you really feel with this is you feel as if the eyeball is sore on one side or the other, manifesting back and forth, or you feel like your eyeball is swelling or it's getting bigger. Those seem to be the two major symptoms of it. Now, I want to make mention here of the two on the back of the body here. That would be the one at the tailbone and the one at the back of the heart center in the middle of the back in between the shoulder blades. Those two, especially the one at the bottom, when they begin to open up, they can cause a little bit of discomfort, literally, especially the one at the bottom of the tailbone. What has happened is this one doesn't really start to do anything until Kundalini has been activated. And here's the situation. You have a lot of people who get the Kundalini moving, and they do get it to go up all the way to the head, but it doesn't stay there. It comes back down. And it comes back down into the lower end of the spinal column again, and then it will start to move. It comes in cycles, as you know, Kundalini. And it can be very sporadic, or it can be very intense, the Kundalini movement through the body. And you know there are physical symptoms to that also. What happens is, in many cases, what happens when the meridian opens on the bottom, it can create a situation where people would feel the symptoms of a very hot, burning, and they would have what I call them bum shooters, okay? That's, I'm just a country boy, and I like to keep it as simple as possible. And I mean, to somebody who's very sophisticated and well educated, I must sound like a complete dink at times. That's okay. I'm from Dinkville. All right. So, but anyway, I called them bum shooters. All right. And what somebody said, bum shooters. Yeah. What? Like I said, I'm primitive, but I'm good. Bum shooters are caused by this meridian at the bottom of the base of the tailbone. Again, not replacing the root chakra here. It's in addition to. It can cause a sensation where I'm going to have to get real crude here for just a moment. It feels like you're getting electrically goosed by a little electrical charge. Okay, and it's right on the end of the tailbone, and it feels like it kind of shoots right into the anal area. That's why I call them bum shooters. And it's like an electrical jolt that you get. Okay, and it's kind of like, that's why I call it a bum shooter. And for a long period of time when that was happening for me, I was like, well, what the hell is going on? I finally figured it out, and I will explain that in another video when I get to it on the next one going around, kind of deal. But that's one of the symptoms that you can feel in the physical body. And you can also feel as though the tailbone is throbbing in that particular area also. And you can also have some difficulty when this is beginning to open with bowel movements. You may feel as though you're constipated periodically, and the constipation can seem to last for 2 or 3 days. Okay, and I'll leave that. I'll leave that there for now. Okay, now moving up to the back of the heart center to that meridian that's there. Again, it's not very big. It's about the size of a dime, and it actually is somewhat similar to the exhaust pipe on a car type of deal. And when it opens, it can manifest as the person feeling as though they got a very uncomfortable pain or agitation, I like that word, right in the middle of the shoulder blades. And it can be there, and it can be very disruptive. Not really that painful, but it can be very disruptive because it seems like you got a lump or a bump or a boil or something on the back of your back, and it doesn't seem to go away. And you can have a heart center opening at this particular point in time, and you can be going through a lot of heart center activity, changes in personality, and all kinds of other stuff, but you can have this going on. And I'll get into the explanation of it later, but the physical symptoms are there, and anybody who's a clairvoyant or a good healing practitioner can find it very easily simply by scanning with their hand and find out that it's there. Okay, so there's symptoms of that. So I think, I think I've pretty much covered it all for this video. And excuse me, I'm going to leave it there because I hadn't planned to go on here for 33 minutes. I guess I got into the explanation and got a lot of clarity in it for you. I got you to crack up a couple of times also. So we're going to leave it there, and we're going to say, hope you enjoyed the information. And hey, if you hadn't made your donation in the first one, now's a good time to make it, because now you know you're getting some information that you didn't know about and that nobody else knew about either until I made this stuff available. So, hey, thank you, and thank you. Have a great day.